Hi, I'm Adriana Wright, here today with Mr. Roth to talk about teacher absences. How are you today?
Good, you?
I'm all right. So, how do you deal with the teacher being absent?
I think it's just like being a part of any other team, right? You know, you play volleyball, so if you're missing a key part of the team, you try and figure out the best person to put in that role and keep the team moving forward and being productive.
Okay. And what is the process of a teacher calling out?
So if a teacher's going to call out, we have an online system. So they submit their absence, whether they're sick or if it's a personal day, a professional day, sometimes they're at a conference, things like that. They put that in the system, as soon as they can. And then we go through, myself and the assistant principals, we approve their absences. It also is our way of communicating with the sub-service that we need, other subs. And then we also can start to piece together how we're going to fill those absences the following day.
Okay. And you mentioned something about a sub-service. Where do these subs come from? Is it just that service?
Yeah, so we work with there's a lot of sub-services out there, but right now we work with a company called ESS, and they do a really nice job of trying their best to help us fill the void.
Okay. And how do these subs know where they're subbing? Is it just a link through that teacher call-out system?
Yeah, so most of our subs are here every day. So they come in, they check in with Ms. Henning in the main office. She gives them their schedule of where they're going to be. Sometimes they are following one teacher's schedule. So if Mr. Payon was absent, then they might just be Mr. Payon for a day, big shoes to fill. And then sometimes they're kind of bouncing from class to class. So they might not have one subject all day. They might not be in the same room all day, and they're just filling holes as needed.
So what do you do if there aren't enough subs?
That's a situation that unfortunately we find ourselves in a lot. And it's a situation that a lot of schools find themselves in a lot because there really just aren't enough subs. So our teachers, our regular teaching staff, they are often pulled from their hallway duty, their cafeteria duty, other duties that they have, so that they can cover classrooms. And there are times where even that isn't enough, and so then we pull people from their prep periods, and we usually try to work it out with them. But so some teachers, on certain days, they'll be in a classroom for 8 periods a day, which is a lot.
And what are the expectations of a teacher or a sub covering?
I think we're trying to keep the classroom as productive academically as possible. Teachers, when they're out, there should always be plans for students to do. And we know it's not the same as when your teacher's not there. So I'll keep picking on Mr. Payon. I can't expect a substitute, whether it is a substitute from ESS or another teacher who's filling in. I can't expect them to duplicate what he would do on a normal day, in the classroom. But hopefully that person who's covering, they're taking the plans that he has left behind. He's helping students through it as best he can. Sometimes that's hard to do. If I'm covering a calculus class, I'm probably not going to be a whole lot of help to you if you're trying to learn calculus. But just keeping things going. And then also, the classroom environment's important. So at the very least, hopefully it's a chance to build some relationships with kids that you wouldn't otherwise know.
Okay. And how are these subs qualified?
So it used to be that to be a substitute teacher, it used to be that the bulk of your substitute teachers would be teachers that were relatively new out of college, didn't have a job yet, and were kind of earning their stripes. To be honest, there's not a whole lot of them out there anymore. Teaching is a profession that is in dire need. It used to be that in the state of Pennsylvania, there'd be about 26,000 people every year who would graduate from college with a teaching degree. So every year there were 26,000 people looking for a job. That number is now about 6,000. So if you come out of college with a teaching degree, when I first started teaching, it was common to have to spend 2, 3, 4 years as a substitute. Now, the day you graduate, sometimes before, we're like fighting over you to hire you because when there's a contract to be given, there's not that many applicants. And so in reaction to that, the state, and many states, Pennsylvania being one of them, have started to change the requirements for substitute teachers. So you no longer have to have a teaching credential. You no longer have to have a bachelor's degree in education. Pennsylvania now requires that if you have, I believe it's 30 undergraduate credits, you can go through a kind of basic training course to get a substitute teacher credential. And I'll be honest, that has worked rather well. Some of our best substitutes, they don't have an official teaching cert. They have that substitute certification, but they're here and they're dedicated and they do a nice job.
Okay. And what are some challenges of the whole process?
I think there's two. One is the numbers issue that I talked about before. Teaching is such a great profession, but society doesn't value teaching sometimes. And so students are often talked out of going to school to be a teacher, right? They're told that, well, you might not find a job or you won't make a lot of money. You're not going to become a multimillionaire as a teacher, more than likely, but you're going to make a decent living. And I think we have to do a better job of encouraging young folks to go to school to be a teacher. I love my job, and I know a lot of teachers who love their jobs. So that's part of it. The other part of it is that a lot of times when you have a substitute in your classroom, your teacher is actually here. They might be pulled out of class to go to a meeting, whether it's, oftentimes it's an IEP meeting or another student meeting. And that's a valuable, important part of the job. But it does cause us to pull people out of classrooms at a rate that 10, 15 years ago, those folks weren't always being pulled out to go to those meetings. They should be, but it does leave a hole in the classroom. So trying to balance the needs of everything else that's on a teacher's plate, they have a lot more to do than just what we see when they're in the classroom. And oftentimes they are the things, trainings, IEP meetings, conferences, you name it, that have a substitute in your classroom. And sometimes we can get the appearance that our teachers call out at this high rate. They really don't. Our teachers are amazing. They're here all the time. But we end up having to pull them out for some other things, and that leads to us needing more subs than we really should.
Okay. And how do you think this impacts a student trying to learn?
I think one, perception is reality, right? So if you go through your day and you have 2 substitutes out of your 8 periods, that's 25% of your day where you're not getting the typical academic experience that you deserve. And that can be really frustrating. And I know sometimes, again, we have that feeling that, well, my teacher's not here, my teacher must not want to be here, but I don't really think that's the case. I think there are times where they're sick or their kids are sick or things like that. But again, a lot of times they're working just as hard, just not where you can see them. But as a student, it's frustrating, right? You and many others, you're great students. You guys want to be in class learning. And if it's a math classroom and you have a substitute with an English background in there and they're not able to help you with the math, it's easy to get frustrated. I understand that. And we just have to continue to navigate that, try to figure out ways to make it a meaningful experience for you even when we don't have your regular teacher in the classroom.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, other than teaching is really a great profession. So that is really part of why we're in this situation that we're in. And it's not just Norristown. I go to meetings with all kinds of schools. Everyone is hurting for teachers. And I promise you, if I was coming out of college today, I'd still want to be a teacher. I love what I do. And I know everybody says you don't make a lot of money as a teacher, but I think many people would be pleasantly surprised. So we need you, and we love hiring Norristown grads. So go to school, be a teacher, call me, and we'll work together in 4 years.
Okay. I'm Adriana Wright. I talked to Mr. Roth about teacher absences. Back to our host.